Good morning, Councilmember Allen and concerned citizens. My name is Celeste Bryan. I'm a strategy board member for the Washington Interfaith Network and a core justice organizer with and member of Metropolitan African Methodist Episcopal Church in Ward 2. Councilman, thank you for your opening statement and thank you for your comments. When concurs, retreat is not an option. I also appreciate your further comments after panel one about the generational consequences and how unacceptable these changes in the budget and how the impact will be intergenerational and reverberate for decades to come. Since 2020, WIN has been working to create pathways for new home ownership for Black legacy citizens of the district, and we have tried to address the startling Black-white wealth gap born out of a history of systemic racism connected to employment, wage, education, and housing discrimination. Every committee in the city council, we're talking to you, has a role in playing in promoting sustainable, affordable housing and home ownership opportunities as a way to balance the scales for equity and addressing the wealth gap. Two paths to address inequity in housing and home ownership must be addressed. Promoting affordable home ownership opportunities for legacy citizens, and secondly, preserving existing legacy Black home ownership in DC. This is a path in which the Committee for Transportation, thank you, Councilman, and Environment has a critical role to play in securing the SETF funding. WIN appreciates the efforts of the Committee for Transportation and Environment in its investment in the home electrification pilot project in two historic neighborhoods in which WIN has also been working, Deanwood and River Terrace. We have spoken to the families. We have spoken to homeowners who have reported, in particular one resident who told us that she wants to pass down her home to her daughter, but she's hesitant because the home has a broken furnace, a faulty stove, a leaky roof. All would agree these needed repairs, if not addressed, are expensive, potentially dangerous, crippling to sustained home ownership, and not environmentally safe. We've been making great progress, however, through the Affordable Home Electrification Program. It has already transformed 100 homes. That's 100 homes preserved. We cannot take that lightly. The mayor's budget is a rollback on progress, as has been said so many times today. And the Sustainable Energy Trust Fund funds are being reallocated to be utilized to pay for the district's energy and waste bills and to the general fund instead of being allocated to where they're meant to go, to repair and electrify homes. This is unfair and inappropriate misallocation of funds intended for our lower and working class families in the district. And as has been mentioned before, we stand to lose $18 million in federal matching dollars. Can the district afford to lose $18 million to support its citizenry in this time of diminished federal and local funding and assured economic crisis that will disproportionately impact low-income and working families in the district? Finally, I'll say, in this time marked by devolution and rollback, WIN asks and demands that DC's council members commit to building an affordable, equitable DC that moves forward, not backward, and moves forward in a sustained agenda for racial and economic justice. Restore the $50 million for SETF funding and let DC be an example of progress and preserve legacy homeownership for generations to come. Thank you.
Good morning, Councilmember Allen. My name is Jackie Wright. I'm the Social Justice Programs Manager at Foundry in Ward 2. I'm also a member of the Washington Interfaith Network. Councilmember Allen, thank you so much for being a climate champion. The rest of the council, this message is for you. I am here to urge the DC Council to restore $50 million to the Sustainable Energy Trust Fund with at least $18 million to the Healthy Homes Act. This is an issue of economic, racial, and environmental justice. Let's take Black home ownership, for example. Existing Black homeowners have long struggled to achieve home ownership, and now, with stagnant wages and rising costs, it's even worse. Add to this the impact of these current economic factors have on the ability for families to maintain their homes, how that results in higher utility bills, and we have a real crisis. As we know, the Healthy Homes Act helps households with that financial burden by providing new equipment and appliances that will reduce air pollution, save energy, and cut utility bills at no cost to the household. Rating that funding meant to go to low-income DC families will hurt those families and undermine housing affordability in DC, which sabotages the mayor and the council's own housing affordability goals. And now the proposed budget spends nearly $1 billion for this new stadium, with all of the income from ticket sales, parking, et cetera, going to the commanders and their owners. We do not have our priorities straight. We must at least make sure that DC's important energy and green housing safety net programs are fully funded. Secondly, burning gas indoors harms public health, period. Gas appliances fill our homes with many of the same pollutants as car exhaust, except it's inside, which is way more risky. Yet we still burn these dirty fuels inside our own homes. The Beyond Gas Coalition recently released a report finding that 77% of the nearly 300 kitchens tested in DC had these unhealthy levels of nitrogen dioxide, which cause many respiratory illnesses. Children in homes with gas appliances have a 42% increased risk of developing asthma, and asthma rates in children living in homes with gas stoves are comparable to those children living with cigarette smokers. We all know this affects the most vulnerable. Children who are Black or low income are disproportionately impacted. We can see this just looking at children in Ward 8. They're 10 times more likely to go to the hospital because of an asthma attack than children living in wealthier areas of DC. And we haven't even really talked about the environment yet. The gas we burn in our homes is methane. When released directly into the atmosphere, such as from leaky gas lines, it's 80 times more powerful than carbon dioxide as a climate pollutant. When burned, it emits carbon dioxide, which is the most common climate pollutant. I know the budget is what it is. I know there are voices who might say it isn't the right time, but when is the right time? When is the right time to care for the disadvantaged, the sick, our children, and their future on this planet? As my husband's grandfather used to like to say, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is right now. The time is very urgently right now. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairperson Allen and all council members of the Committee on Transportation and the Environment. My name is Richard Vilmonet. I am a father and volunteer with the Washington Interfaith Network. I speak today to implore the council to support continued funding for DC's clean energy and affordable green housing programs. In the past, I have testified in support of the Climatizing Our Overheated Living Spaces Regulation Amendment Act and Healthy Homes Act. These acts, in addition to various other acts that have and will be highlighted throughout today's testimonies, are the cornerstones of years of work to create a DC that is sustainable and accountable to the health and well-being of our communities for generations to come. I take a moment to highlight the specific benefits of the Sustainable Energy Trust Fund and the Healthy Homes Act. The SETF funds energy efficiency, solar energy investments, and electrification programs to help lower-income DC families transition from fossil fuels to to efficient, clean energy. This includes funding for the Healthy Homes Act. Last year, these funds were used by the mayor to pay DC utility bills, and the current budget would permit all unspent funds in the SETF to be taken for general purposes every year. This would make planning and implementation of clean energy projects nearly impossible, as a high proportion of rehabilitation and electrification projects take several years and require guaranteed funding. The Healthy Homes Act was passed in May of 2024. Some key benefits of the bill were to provide 30,000 low and moderate income DC households with energy efficiency improvements for heating, hot water, and cooking equipment at no cost. These measures are important because they provide a level of economic justice for DC residents, many of whom struggle to maintain a livelihood in DC due to rising costs. If the council accepts the mayor's current budget proposal, it will raid funding meant to support these individuals and undermine housing affordability, a complete reversal of stated goals stated by the mayor and the council. The Healthy Homes Act was also a step towards improving the current gas infrastructure in DC, one that is toxic, inefficient, and damaging to our health and sustainability of the planet. Gas appliances fill our homes with many of the same pollutants as car exhaust, like nitrogen dioxide, particulate matter, and formaldehyde. Over the last several years, I have been able to volunteer with the Beyond Gas Coalition, which recently released a report finding that 77% of the nearly 300 kitchens tested in DC had unhealthy levels of nitrogen dioxide, which causes respiratory and other illnesses. And my fellow panelists just highlighted, asthma rates in children living in homes with gas stoves are comparable to those of children living with cigarette smokers. And a lot of these areas also affect those who are Black or are in disproportionately low-income neighborhoods. In general, Black Americans are 55% more likely to die from causes related to pollution from fossil fuel burning appliances than white Americans. Eliminating these indoor air pollutants by continuing to fund the Healthy Homes Act and allowing households to transition off of gas improves public health and saves money. I urge the DC Council to restore $50 million to the Sustainable Energy Trust Fund with at least $18 million for the Healthy Homes Act. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, let me turn to Ms. Turner.
My name is Cerise Elaine Turner. I come before you as Miss Senior District of Columbia 2023, representing and advocating for over 120,000 seniors who have helped to build this city and are fighting to remain in it. Today, I also urge the DC Council to restore $50 million to the Sustainable Energy Trust Fund, with at least $18 million allocated to the Healthy Homes Act. DC Sustainable Energy Trust, also known as DCSEU, programs are beneficiaries of this fund. I'm here to tell you exactly how these programs made a difference for me and for so many seniors. These aren't cosmetic upgrades. They're the reason I'm still safely and securely in my home today. Because of DCSEU's Solar for All and affordable home electrification programs, I received a brand new roof at no cost, replacing one over 30 years old, eliminating a financial burden that could have led to unsafe conditions, forced displacement, or even the loss of my home. Through a combination of free solar panels that dramatically lowered my energy use and the Department of Energy and Environment's utility discount program, I haven't paid a utility bill in over 2 years. These savings have allowed me to afford healthy food, reliable transportation, and home maintenance. Don't let this sash fool you. Before DCSEU, I struggled too. My outdated gas water heater was replaced with a safe 50-gallon electric unit for free. My electrical panel was upgraded for safety and energy efficiency for free. And I received a $75 rebate for an energy-efficient electric clothes dryer. These upgrades and cost savings allowed me and thousands of other seniors to age in place safely, sustainably, and with dignity. Without them, many older adults would be at a greater risk of heat exhaustion, respiratory illnesses, and even hospitalization, especially during extreme weather events that are growing more frequent. Seniors aren't asking for a handout. We're asking for a return on decades of our investment in this city. We've paid taxes, built neighborhoods, volunteered in our communities, run businesses, and mentored generations. We didn't just believe in this city before it was booming. We laid the foundation, block by block, year after year. Now, too many of us are being priced out, unable to afford a new HVAC system, a water heater, essential appliances, or even a roof. Without DCSEU, our needs go unmet. And make no mistake, unmet needs lead to emergencies. Many seniors live on a fixed income. DCSEU is the safety net that prevents us from falling through the cracks. A city's budget is more than a spreadsheet. It's a covenant. It's a reflection of what and who we value. So I ask you, please don't balance the budget on the backs of those who have seen this city through decades of change. Honor their legacy, protect their health, safeguard their future. Let your budget reflect the value of their contributions, and know that when you vote, you're not just voting for today's seniors, you're also voting for your own children and your grandchildren, and for the air they breathe, and the world they will inherit. So thank you so much, Chairperson Allen, for your time and consideration.
I mean, that's real money back in people's pockets. What does that do just to your own quality of life, the choices you're able to enjoy when we take that cost off the table for, in the grand scheme of a DC budget, a fairly modest investment from the city's standpoint, but a huge advantage for that resident who now is able to save those costs. And that means you can do something else with those dollars, whether it's being able to help support family or friends, or being able to do whatever you want to do. But can you just share a little more about what does that mean? Like 2 years worth of no utility bills, that's some serious money in your pocket.
You're very correct. I have my Pepco bill right here. And right now, this is a June 2025 bill. I think you have a copy of it. And the total credit amount is $1,336.25. And it's been like this all year.
Yeah.
And so what it does for me is, it means I can eat. I only get Social Security. You know, I don't have a pension. And, you know, it allows me to eat 3 meals a day. I can eat healthy foods. You know, I can shop more in the produce section. I can repair my car bill recently, you know, at the Honda, you know, service center. It's like almost $1,400. But with the money that I've saved, I can repair my car. You know, I have a reliable transportation and home maintenance. I live in a house that was built in 1935, you know, and so there are things that, you know, need repairing, and my lawn and this and that, you know, it goes on. And I feel like, you know, my concern was, can I afford to stay in the city before DCSEU? But since DCSEU, I'm confident that I can stay in the city and age in place. And it's nothing but a blessing.
Yeah. I think that is, thank you. It's wonderful to hear. I think that is also true for a lot of folks that have been able to benefit from, whether it's the Healthy Homes program, SEU programs, our Solar for All. Like these are programs that make a real difference to people's ability to still call DC home.
Yes.
To be able to live here. So I know that we're going to extol and talk about all the great things from a climate and energy and environmental perspective that these dollars and programs can do, but I don't want it to get lost on anybody. Like, we're just talking about people's ability to call DC home and be able to afford to live here. And that's what's getting cut. That's what's being eliminated.
Yes.
And that's why it rubs me so wrong when I see this is a growth agenda budget. And no, this is hurting longtime residents their ability to afford to live here, and it's short-sighted. And so we're going to do everything we can to put it all back together again. It's a broken promise yet again in this budget, but we're going to keep working to put it back together again. And I think the story you shared, I hope for other people helps them understand this isn't just some kind of pat on the back, gosh, don't we care about our planet? This is every day, dollars in your pocket, your ability to, whether it's addressing, getting the car fixed up, taking care of the house, putting food on the table. That's what this is. So I really, really appreciate that and hope that drives it home for a lot of folks.
One thing,
Absolutely.
a fourth generation Washingtonian. And DCSEU is my Santa Claus. I haven't been, it reminds me when I was little and I would get presents. And DCSEU has been that to me, like my Santa Claus.
Yeah. Well, I really, really appreciate that. Let me see if I can ask a couple other folks. I think we had a few members, Mr. Vilmene, maybe Ms. Du Bois. You just briefly, one of the other things that we look at, a budget needs to be, we're going to hear, a moral document, be fair. We're going to hear that all the time, right? But it also is about like, what are we prioritizing and who are we prioritizing? And in a budget, I think the budget we have in front of us puts in incredibly stark contrast who is being prioritized. But the cuts to DOEE are going to fall heaviest on neighborhoods and communities on the eastern half of our city. Specifically, wards 5, 7, and 8 are going to bear the brunt of most of these cuts. When we talk about the programs are going to be defunded, the investments that aren't going to get made, that's who hurts. I just want to, let me give Mr. Velmanet online and then Ms. Du Bois as well, if you wanted to add to that about why that should spark us to action as well to write this.
Thank you, Councilmember Allen. Yes, it is an important issue, one that the council...
We're turning up the sound.
Thank you. It is an important issue, Councilmember Allen, one that the council has tried to address, I believe, through some of the acts that have been passed over the last several years in terms of kind of the equity issue here. There's a history of disproportionate impact, negative on certain communities. And what these acts have done, specifically what the Healthy Homes Act does, and what my fellow panelists just kind of illustrated, is the actual returns, right, that can come from addressing some of these harms. And it's in small ways, but they seem small, but they're so impactful because it affects the day-to-day livelihood of so many people in terms of being able to prioritize other important things like being able to cut your grass or doing other home maintenance, or feeling like you're in a home environment where you're breathing clean air and you know it, and your family and your family's benefiting from it, and you're not having to be worried about any hospital visits or other things that affect you in such a negative way, because obviously there's so many things that we're dealing with in this life. And so when the council can do things like this, measures like these, acts like this, that can help address people's day-to-day concerns in a way that is impactful and that they see it and that they feel like, it is the job of a council member, I believe, serve the people, and the people need to know that they have individuals who are hearing their concerns and addressing them. And that's why I believe your efforts and efforts of others who support these Healthy Homes Act, Cool Act, and other utilities and measures that are meant to address these harms are so important.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Good morning, and thank you for this opportunity to testify. I am submitting written testimony and will try to cut to the chase now. My name is Barbara Briggs. I'm testifying today on behalf of Friends Meeting of Washington, working closely with Beyond Gas DC, Washington Interfaith Network, Sierra Club, and Interfaith Power and Light to speed DC's transition off fossil fuels in a way that does not leave behind DC's lower income families. In the last years, DC Council and government have established as policy that DC will reduce our carbon emissions to net zero by 2045. And DC Council has passed important pieces of legislation to help us achieve that target. Among these is the Healthy Homes Act of 2024, which will help 30,000 low-income DC households move off fossil fuels, progressively eliminating their greenhouse gas emissions with massive additional benefit for improving indoor and outdoor air quality and the health of DC residents. I'm here to urge you to fund the Breathe Easy program established by the Healthy Homes Act and to protect DC's clean energy and affordable green housing programs now funded by the SETF, and to provide at least $18 million for the Healthy Homes Act program, which is also needed to achieve the federal match. If we recognize that we're living in a climate emergency, which obviously we are, then prioritizing speedy transition is not a luxury to be put aside when times are tough. But we also know that as we eliminate the emissions from burning fossil fuels, especially in our buildings, DC residents will be healthier, saving millions in medical care and in lost school and work time. Last November, Beyond Gas released the results of a community science investigation of health-harming gas emissions from gas stoves. It made visible one aspect of the costs of burning fossil fuels, and I hope you'll weigh it heavily as you decide how to fund implementation of the Healthy Homes Act and DC's other clean energy programs. And I will submit our report, Cooking Up Danger, for the record. What we found is that of the 663 homes tested in DC and Montgomery County, homes with gas stoves, we tested for nitrogen dioxide, one of the emissions created when gas is burned. Nitrogen dioxide is a pulmonary irritant. It's an inflammatory agent in the body that causes and aggravates asthma, COPD, lung disease. Some studies have found that nitrogen dioxide exposure contributed to metabolic disorders like diabetes, and that early exposure may affect child cognitive development. We tested by running the stoves for half an hour. In 63% of the homes we tested, nitrogen dioxide levels rose to above 100 parts per billion, the EPA's health protective standard for outdoor air, and the maximum advisable for a 1-hour exposure. In DC, it was over 3/4 of homes, 77% tested recorded NO2 levels above 100 parts per billion. The average in DC was 181 parts per billion, almost twice the EPA's health protective standard. We also found, running a smaller number of tests, that nitrogen dioxide does not quickly dissipate. In many homes, it can hang around for hours. It also moves with hot air, making its way into lofts and upstairs bedrooms. So we have seen with our own eyes that burning gas in our homes is contributing to asthma, COPD, and other chronic illnesses that plague DC residents. Please do not abandon the important legislation and policies that you have established over the last years. Someday, when fossil fuels are priced to incorporate the climate and health costs they incur, making rational energy decisions will come more easily. But for now, we rely on your leadership, you in DC Council, in DC government, to make choices based on a more complicated cost-benefit analysis that includes climate and health considerations that are not reflected in the rates that we pay. We are grateful that DC's climate commitments and laws do reflect the broader cost-benefit analysis. Now is a tough budget moment, but it is not time to shrink back from our climate commitment. So please stand firm and fund the Healthy Homes Act and other programs that will move DC off burning fossil fuels. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman Allen. Thank you very much for the opportunity to provide testimony before you today in the Transportation and Environment Committee. My name is Karen Abrams. I'm a resident of Ward 3. I'm a natural resource manager, recently retired from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. I'm also a member of St. Columba's Episcopal Church, which happens to be also a partner with the Washington Interfaith Network. The DC Council and the mayor have taken bold and important steps to increase affordable housing and adapt to climate impacts in DC. I've been proud to support those initiatives through my tax dollars and additional fees I pay through my utility bills, including to the Sustainable Energy Trust Fund. However, as we've been hearing all day today, however, the mayor's proposal to raise the SETF to indefinitely pay for DC government's own utility bills is wrong and a breach of trust to the taxpayers who provide the funds and the low and middle income residents who benefit from these special purpose dollars. I urge the council to restore $50 million to the SETF with at least $18 million for implementing the Healthy Homes Act. It is more important now than ever to ensure that this funding is available to low and middle income residents as the city continues to experience an affordable housing crisis and as utility and home maintenance costs continue to rise amid ongoing extreme weather caused by climate change. Those pressures on DC residents are not going to go away in 2026. Temperatures continue to rise and become more extreme in DC due to the effects of climate change. Even under the Trump administration, NOAA concedes that May 2025 was the second warmest recorded spring in the US and globally. DC neighborhoods with some of our most vulnerable residents are expected to experience summer heat waves that are at least 16 degrees higher than our less vulnerable parts of the city due to urban heat island effects. Outdated HVACs increase utility bills, which are one of several known barriers to housing affordability and Black home ownership. Gas-fueled appliances harm indoor air quality. Residents need access to often costly, high-efficiency, and electric appliances to maintain healthy indoor temperatures and reduce the risk of harmful indoor pollutants caused by gas-powered appliances. Raiding the SETF would sabotage DC's own housing affordability goals, leaving families vulnerable to known and expected climbing summer temperatures, extreme weather due to climate change, and harmful indoor air quality. Redirecting these funds to DC government's own operating expenses would be a bait and switch that would further erode public trust and erodes my own trust in other promises that the DC government is making, including the really large promises about community benefits from a redevelopment RFK. So in closing, please restore the $50 million to the Sustainable Energy Trust Fund. And I will also note that I strongly agree with pretty much every other comment that has been made today and really appreciate the opportunity to provide my testimony before you today. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair Allen, for hosting this hearing. My name is Bill Mefford, and I am the Executive Director of the Festival Center, a faith-based community center, and Adams Morgan. And we are also a new member of the Washington Interfaith Network, which we're really excited about. I want to thank you for being a champion for environmental justice here in the district. Unfortunately, I cannot say the same for our mayor, and that, in part, is why I'm here. In her current budget proposal, she takes money meant for low-income homeowner programs like the Affordable Home Electrification Program and instead uses it to pay the utility bills of government buildings. For us, without the low-interest loan from the PACE program, which was mentioned earlier, we would have not been able to electrify our building and maximize our energy production through the over 100 solar panels atop our roof and the all-electric kitchen in our building. Moreover, it was DCSEU that was the first organization we turned to during our renovations to learn exactly what we could do to make our space more energy efficient. They have been a key partner with us and with many faith institutions in the district, and for them we are deeply grateful. Our renovations not only helped us reduce our carbon footprint and make our space safer and healthier for the community, we've also significantly reduced our operating costs. We were spending less on energy every month, even though the building was greatly enhanced, and we have far more office space after the renovations. And at a time when the budgets are tight, that makes a real difference. Electrifying the festival center not only saves us money, it aligns with our deeply held values and our call to be a good neighbor to the residents of DC. We are more equipped to live out our mission and be faithful to our calling. But here's the truth. Our nonprofit had access to tools that most residents in wards 5, 7, and 8 simply don't. The Healthy Homes Act was designed to change that, to level the playing field, and to give lower income homeowners and renters access to the same clean, safe, cost-saving upgrades that wealthier residents have had for years. Pulling funding from the DC Sustainable Energy Utility is like building a bridge to clean energy and then closing it just as people start to cross. If the DC Green Bank, and particularly the DCSEU, did not exist, our building would still be running on fossil fuels, polluting the air inside and outside. We would be losing lots of money. And most importantly to me, we would be falling short of the call on our organization to be a good neighbor. If these agencies disappear, thousands of residents will be forced to stay in homes with dangerous gas appliances and rising energy bills. This isn't just about climate, it's also about equity. Every family deserves to live in a healthy home. Every resident deserves the chance to lower their bills, protect their health, and be a part of DC's clean energy future. Therefore, I urge the council to restore full funding to the DC Green Bank and the DCSEU. Don't let the city balance its budget by sacrificing our most vulnerable neighbors. Invest in people, invest in justice, and invest in the future we all want to see. Thank you.
Mr. Mefford, let me bring you in. I mean, you kind of spent some time talking about how all the things you did do to bring your building in. You're not a for-profit, so I'm sure you stretched in certain places. But how do you feel about that as somebody who just went through a process with your own building?
Yeah, I mean, we went through the same pandemic that a lot of office building owners went through. We were looking at, values that weren't favorable for what we were doing. And we chose to invest in clean energy. We chose to invest in over 100 rooftop solar panels, a clean kitchen. I think the thing that we're talking about, if I could just be brutally honest, is that we're not looking to operate within an economy. We're a faith-based community center. We have a different set of values. Our values are not about exploiting as many people as we can for profits so that our CEOs can make as much money as they possibly can. We see and envision an economy for DC and for the world, frankly, where more people are brought in. We went from, the weekend before I started, which was February of 2020, right before the pandemic started, I sat down with our finance chair and we were $400,000 underwater before the pandemic. We chose to reimagine the building, the ministry, the whole purpose of what we were doing. And now we're able to, and it's because of programs like the DC Green Bank, it's because of DOE, it's because of DCSEU, that we're able to now have a building that is larger in size, that went from 7 hosts, being the home to 7 nonprofits, to now being the home of over 25, while doing fiscal sponsorship for 20 nonprofits. And it's because we don't believe in an economy that's exploitative. We believe in an economy that's inclusive.
Good evening. Hello. My name is Lauren Taylor. I'm a doctoral candidate in sociology at the illustrious Howard University. I'm a resident of Ward 1 and someone deeply engaged in environmental as well as racial justice through both research and lived experience. I've studied disaster recovery, community health, and environmental racism, but I'm here this evening not as an academic, but as a neighbor and an advocate. We cannot have health equity in DC if our housing makes people sick. Across the district, especially in communities like Shaw, Berry Farm, and Deanwood, we see a clear pattern Black and brown residents are disproportionately exposed to mold, lead, poor air quality, as well as structural neglect. In my neighborhood, I've spoken with families forced to choose between paying rent and treating chronic asthma. I've walked past construction zones and public housing that sit half finished, as well as tenants living with rodents, which we've seen countless stories about that, broken ventilation or extreme heat. I've also seen new constructions go up, pandering to new community members that don't resemble the historical demographics of this area and causing the longtime residents to no longer afford to live here. Healthy housing isn't just a tenant issue, it's a public health crisis. We know that DC children in wards 5, 7, and 8 experience some of the highest asthma rates in the nation, tied directly to poor indoor air quality. The structural racism baked into housing policy is literally costing us lives as well as millions in emergency care. We urge you to fund and fully implement proactive housing inspections, mold remediation programs, and green retrofits, not just in market rate housing, but in places where working families, which I'm a product of, seniors and children live every day. And while we talk about justice, I want to be clear, justice delayed is justice denied. We cannot ask residents to wait another year, another budget cycle, another pilot program, especially not while developers receive tax incentives and clean subsidies that never trickle down to us. We deserve housing that doesn't make us sick. We deserve clean air and safe pipes. We deserve to stay in neighborhoods and thrive. As someone whose life is literally rooted in social justice for those that are most neglected, I see healthy housing as the foundation of everything else that we fight for: stability, education, wellness, as well as joy. I urge you, please restore $50 million to the Sustainable Energy Trust Fund, fund healthy housing now, not as a gesture, but as a moral, environmental, and public health imperative. Thank you so much for your time and commitment to DC, where hopefully every home can be safe. And I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, but thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Dr. To be Taylor.